Alright, I'm gonna reset. Alright, I'm gonna reset the space one more time, and then we're gonna get it started.
One more time. Alright, let's do it.
One more
Turn
time.
on your flag.
How do you fly?
Where are you?
There's an option in your
How do you
settings
fly?
menu.
Yeah.
Alright, go to your menu.
So you could just press this button here. That rotates you right. This rotates you left.
And then go to settings.
Oh, you're already back on stage.
Awesome. Nice.
And then go to input.
Okay,
and
you're
turn on
good. Let
flag.
me make sure I have your megaphone on. Cool.
I see
Alright,
names.
And then if you have like a river or something, you can use like a flip tool and fly around like.
You can also just, whoever was asking, just look up and push forward.
Took me like a week to get used to it.
Alright.
Okay. So who's the
Alright.
Good to go.
Yeah, I hear you already. Okay. Alright guys, so it's 10:05 now, so we're gonna get started. Let me
Surprise.
open the audio up. Alright, so I'm gonna mute the audience for now. Let me do that.
Yeah.
Yay!
I love you.
Alright, someone got a quick I love you before we muted him. I like that. Alright, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and start with the event. I'll let you know that you do have to raise your hand. So, hand raises. I'm gonna see a raise hand button. That's the way we're gonna be able to call in any questions, any comments you guys. So please, for anything you want to bring up. So I'm gonna be introducing what VR is, computer science in VR. Your first meeting up here, what we do is bring a community passionate about computer science, academically and professionally, together in virtual. So we've had over 20 meetups teaching things like Java programming, you talking about checking the internet, and this is our first that we're really happy to have already. So although already's avatar is own, and you guys might not even be able to see my account, but this is not
Hello.
me.
Yeah. This is me. What's up?
Okay. Yeah. First, this is kind of a breakdown. It's gonna go, and already it's kind of go behind this. First 10 minutes is gonna be about and then who already is, and then the next 30-minute conversation. I'll be talking to already. Ask questions. We'll do what you guys will see is pretty cool. And then the last 50 questions from you guys. You'll be able to ask already questions. I'll give already a full what you probably saw from the event. He's an incoming here at Microsoft, about to graduate from Cornell. But I'll give already an intro right before we go conversation.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to tell people a little bit about before we get started. We also are doing courses. One that's only going on, which is the intro to pro. Another one, which is the intro to Unity, is a game and VR applications, worlds in Altspace. A little bit about those in a sec. But if you want to get access to see courses like the syllabus for the course, you have to download it and then go to the sign up channel. It's a great place to see things from today, figure out the discussions, get so if you want to join CSinVR.com, URL to the left. It's a great community, 200 strong, so it's updated with what we're doing. I'll have questions that maybe you want me to ask DM the Discord, and I'll be checking those sessions. So to post on Discord either channels or DM me directly, and I'll ask in live. All right, last is a brief thing about the indie course. So this course we're probably mid and it's led by Matt Cook, who is a VR researcher for Tom Furness. You might have seen him give a talk earlier today. Basically, what we aim to teach you guys is Unity interface, Unity platforms for building 2D games, as well as video. So our goal is to teach all Unity projects, and then eventually you guys into making full games using Unity. So if you're interested in that course, have a course sign-up channel on our Discord. We have over 70 sign-up maxed at about. I recommend signing up early, and then you can find out more through the page. Last thing, we're also doing courses in Java. That's all paid. Find out all the info over there. Taught in virtual reality. I think that's important to mention. All right, those are the picks. Now let's get to the part. So this is non.
Hey guys, that's yeah, my actually, by the way, but I go by Artie, so feel free to call me that.
I probably should have mentioned that, yeah. That's non-VR Artie, and that's VR Nick. Artie, you want me to give an intro about it? Just go ahead and do it yourself.
I can give myself an intro.
Okay, I got you.
I think I know about myself. Yeah. So, as my name is, you can call me Artie. Currently at Cornell University, so that stands for mapping. So I actually finished my undergrad early, 8 years master's program that Cornell just kind of lets you. So I'll be finishing that and going to Microsoft in the spring. Connecticut, that's my hometown, Cornell, pretty close by. And yeah, I've been, these last 4 years doing things. I started out with VR stuff. I worked with Nick a lot, around my junior year. And I also did a lot of VR with some professors, shifting over into kind of the learning and cloud space. Actually, more of what I'm going to focus on when I'm going to be working. Yeah, I can guys all about the kind of studying in school later on. Anything else, Nick?
No, yeah. We're going to jump more into it during this. So I think that's a good introduction, and we'll kind of dive deeper into it. Brief intro about myself. So I guess in VR community here in all, Artie and me are just friends, and I'm also a computer science. We've been on projects outside of the classroom, and we've taken a lot of classes together. Really happy that he stopped by to give us a share his experience navigating college and navigating eventually becoming a full-time sophomore. So let's get some. We always started off with high energy, so let's get some emojis for Artie for coming over and talking with us. Everyone, let's get some love emojis, some happy emojis. I want to see a stream, a waterfall of emojis. There you go, raise the energy. Awesome. All right, now I want to see all sad emojis. Only sad emojis. There you go.
Oh no.
Life's a spectrum. Awesome. Okay. So let's go into it. All right, so I have a unique way to interview I wanted to try out. Let's see if I can get. So, and I actually started. I wanted to get you guys' input here about today. So, created it is a survey. Let me make sure that's working. Let's see. There it is. Survey link, which is going to kind of get your input here about today. What you guys have to do is click on there. That's going to open up a Moser in front of you and a Google Forms survey. And it's going to ask you about what you want to study in high school, college, or getting jobs in general. So click on this link here, and then you go through them after you guys are done. I'll give you about 5 minutes. Go ahead and get into it. So if you wonder if it's hard to read, do is just point at the, once you click the link, or grip button, and then move the analog, and that will make it larger. And move the analog stick backwards. So that's just a way of clear to you guys. All right, so go ahead and click that link, answer those questions, and then the way you scroll is with your, well, I wanted to tell you guys that. No worries, but for those who are able to do it, be good to see how we're going to talk about that. All right. Yeah, already. We'll just wait here for about minutes, and then we'll get started.
All right, sounds good.
I am guessing there might be a problem. Does any quiz? Because I don't, and I got too many browsers earlier.
Hey Nick, I also can't hear you anymore.
Oh my God! Oh, sorry, I was on mute. No, what I was saying is, close out all your browsers. Close out all your browsers, and basically, that happens when you have too many browsers. Close them all out. Click the link again, and it should work. Already, were you able to hear me?
Yeah, we're good now.
Okay, I think I was on mute for a sec. Okay, 13 responses. So let me just see if you're interested in hearing. So go ahead and get the response before we get started. Split. The most we have is how to ace. Then we have choosing courses in college, then applying to the college, and how to get interviewed. Okay, got you. All right. So let's survey responses for now. Let's go ahead and get into it. So now we have another little thing. First question, you guys are going to vote on what you want to ask. Make sure you close out of your personal browsers now. So, and then now you're going to want to click this second, and then you're going to vote for which number to ask, which question you want to ask. If you want to ask question 1, vote on question 1, vote on question 2. All right, I'm going to go ahead and press reveal. All right, so most people want question 1. Okay, awesome. All right, question, what background in computer science did you do? Marty, yeah, what was your background in computer science in high school?
So, when I first started kind of dabbling into, I guess my biggest 2 introductions to computer science were taking a computer science course, which, not all schools offer, but that for a lot of people. And I also started out doing FTC robotics. I don't know about how much people know about robotics, but that's like basically the nationwide competition a lot of the people enter in. FT, like more of a small scale. Like your robots are going to be like 2 feet tall, but FRC, which is a bigger competition, your robots are like around like 8 feet tall, like pretty big. Just kind of giving you an idea of like how these function, and like you basically you go to have your robot try and complete a task. The semester is basically building your project with a team. And so this is what I was really involved in from at the beginning, like where I really started wanting to get into science, because like it's not, when you do in these competition settings, it's not as much straight up programming like you would do in an industry. It inspires a lot of people to do that. So that's when I started to read this. And besides that, I'd had math and science background in high school, but my high school did not offer engineering courses, which I think is normal for most high schools, or just like public high schools. So when I was going to college, I was like, I definitely wanted to be an engineer. Kind of wanted to be, and computer science isn't diverse enough that it applies to any major, and you can always branch off. So I went to college thinking I would do computer science. Funny story, I actually bombed the AP CS exam and got a 2.5, which doesn't get you credit or anything. And I was like, wow, I don't know if I should keep going with it. I wasn't gonna let something like that stop me, especially because I knew the way exposed to CS in college is going to be a lot different to how I get exposed in high school. So I bombed the exam with it anyways, and I mean, here I am now. I guess it worked out in the end.
Well, that's a good inspiration for. So, Artie, did you come into college as a computer science major?
I did go into college as a CS major, yeah.
And what's it? So I came to college actually as a applied math major because a lot of high schools even teach computer science. But Artie, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of our friends who started off as applied math, ECE, switched into CS, right?
Yeah,
did you notice
that's
that?
true. A lot of, especially I think in our friend group, a lot of people came in as a bunch of different majors. Chemie, a lot of more math-based focused stuff, physics, etc. But by the end, a lot of people did end up switching to CS. And I think the reason for that is a lot of like the fact that you can use CS to do anything and go into any industry. If you kind of end up in a different niche, it's kind of hard to really. It's still of a major. So I think that might be one reason. Another one is, I don't know, people might just like the essence of CS a lot. It's a lot more problem solving. If that's really what you're focused on, CS lets you to do that.
Yeah, I completely agree. CS is like very spread. It's intersecting all fields at this moment. Like all companies, some form of programming or software. And also, so what do you think about like the actual job opportunities? Do you think like this had an influence on it, or do you think it was passion for CS?
I think there are two kinds of CS majors. I know there are a lot of people that even I know personally that are doing CS for the money, and that's not necessarily like that. Yeah, CS does. The computer science industry right now has a lot of money. These salaries are generally pretty high for an entry level computer science student. You're guaranteed anywhere from like 60 to 20K, just depending on what your background is, which is that's very enticing for a lot of people, and that's a valid reason to want to do CS. But on the other hand, I do know a lot of people that do CS because they're really passionate about the field, they're passionate about the subject, and they have like very specific interests inside CS because there's all kinds of places where you can do CS in college. When you start doing research, you can do CS in machine learning, you can do CS in graphics, you can do CS in I don't know, more theoretical stuff, more math-based stuff. You can go in compilers, you can go into the functional things. There's just a lot of opportunities for different kinds of fields, and I do think a lot of the people are in CS for that reason. They they focus in their field and can kind of make a difference in that field.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, and if I could just mention something there, I think the best computer scientists are the ones that are the most about it, that went into it because that's something they really enjoy, that they're really solving, the creativity, the ability to build things. But I do think it's important that when you go into, especially with our friends in college, to get expectations of like salaries coming out of it, there's a lot of great information often goes overlooked. If you're in college or you're going through some sort of program, a lot of them have postgraduate, which does salary reporting for all graduating seniors. a way to kind of see what income you could expect after college. One of the things I looked at when I was a freshman and kind of like a naive was the post-grad reports for, and what I noticed is that the computer science degree, the post-grads there, had $20,000 difference in average salary than any other major. So that was that allowed me to kind of plan like what expectations I could have in terms of salary cost there. Again, I don't want to say that is going to be the main reason you do it, but I think it's definitely valuable information for you to understand like what you could after you graduate college. Artie, do you agree, or is that too greedy of an approach?
Like, if you want to come into this field knowing where you can, what your opportunities are, and where you, like, if your goal in life is to like have, kind of like, what's the word? If you want to have like a not sustainable, if you want to be really secure your finances, right, and you want to also be happy doing a job, this is a great choice for that.
Yeah, I really think so. Okay, awesome. Well, I think we got like some good background about you already from high school. I think let's go into kind of college and then talk about your experience there. Oh no, we got
a runner. Oh no.
How did he get through? Okay. All right. Let's take a question from the. How about that before we move on?
Okay.
So if you guys have a question, and button, and I'll give you a call. Jeremiah.
Yo.
What's up?
So, quick background. So I'm a senior. I've completed literally every single computer science course that my school. I didn't join robotics though. I think we're number or 4 in the United States.
Oh wow!
But
cool.
So we got a really good teacher, but one thing that's really hard is to retain information. I dabbled in Unity a little. I created a game even, like just using assets from other people. It had some bugs, obviously, because I'm not that good. But my question is, what are some like outlets to look out to? And I'm as a senior who kind of provides for himself and his family, like cheap outlets to like your creative juice, get some hands-on learning school and outside of activities that you can do on your own or even with friends.
Gotcha. So I think really, so you're kind of saying like you pay for like a really expensive class, but you want to be able to like get a lot of experience doing CS. But I think there's a lot of that, especially how like you'll always hear people talking about personal projects, and I really want to reiterate the same thing. There's a lot of resources online, and I can definitely like get you like more specifically after this presentation. But like a big thing is forums. There's a lot of people that are talking about different things they're doing. Exploring GitHub, you'll find a lot of people are working on. But if you can kind of narrow down something you really want to work on, learning about that topic, you can find more things to do in there. But you definitely, like the internet, you have access to do any kind of a project you want. Like a very basic example. Let's say you want to just learn about
Java.
Java. Or even let's take a like more higher level example. Let's say machine learning, right? That's like a really big topic nowadays, right? But that phrase is like that's inaccessible to a lot of people. It sounds intimidating to a lot of people. I think people have issues kind of approaching that. But if you just Google it and you learn you just Google like machine learning for beginners, you have a lot of people write or like writing posts and articles about kind of like the basics of machine learning, and those I feel like these blog posts are very accessible into kind of understanding the basics, and from there those articles will link you to more articles and to the point where you're going to just start reading, and it's kind of building yourself up from the basics, and along the way you'll kind of see that a lot of people are doing similar things and similar projects. So I'll try and find more specific examples later on, but what you really should be going towards is doing these projects over and over again. There's something called Kaggle, for example. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a data science website where people post challenge and people compete to kind of build models to do these challenges and trying to get a good score. And just by doing this, you learn a lot about how the field as you make mistakes along the way. And once you try and solve those mistakes, you kind of retain a lot more of how to do it right the next time. And similar with, I guess, Unity development, which is what you seem to be interested in, game design. That's also a huge field. There's lots of forums for that stuff too. And if you want to keep making games, and just kind of keep searching for projects that are more and more advanced than the last one. And that's the way to help retain all this higher level information. Does that answer your question, or you have anything else?
Yeah, that was a great response. I just want to keep us going because we got a lot to cover.
Okay, yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, have a great response. Yeah, looking up information online, and we're going to talk about basically your process self-teaching, because I know you definitely have learned outside of classes a lot of your skills as well. So on that note, let's go to the next section, which is kind of college. So you guys are going to vote on which question we're going to ask Artie. So what you want to do is let me get the quiz ready for everybody. So let me go to next. All right, so what you want to do is click on the quiz link again. So click on the quiz link 2, right? Not quiz link 1, quiz link 2. And then vote on the number of the question you want me to ask Artie. So make sure you close all your browsers before you open the link. And then once you have all your browsers closed, click here and vote on the number choice you want me to ask Artie. All right. Getting some votes in. I'm going to go ahead and close it in 3, 2, 1. And already, just so you can see what's going on here, let me backtrack just so you can see the quiz. So already, this is like a quiz format. Right now, the count's 0, but they're just voting on the question number they want to see.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
All right,
now
cool.
People are entering. I see.
Yeah, so let's go to press reveal. So most people want to ask question 3, which is, which extracurricular did you find the most valuable? So why don't you kind of tell people what extracurriculars you did from project teams and even working with Universe, and then talk about like which one maybe you found valuable.
Okay. I'm going to assume this is referring to college extracurriculars, and I think the biggest, the most I've gained from extracurricular is doing research, regardless what the field is. And the reason for that is when you jump into research as an undergrad, you usually don't know what you're doing. I had no idea what I was doing, but you're going to be surrounded by a lot of people who do know what they're doing, right? Which you aren't going to find in your regular courses, because in a regular course, it's just a bunch of CS kids who are just trying to pass the class, and you're not going to get more than what is presented in the class. When you're doing research, there's a lot you need to learn really fast in order to kind of get up to speed with the environment around you, and especially because there's a lot of PhDs in the room. There's going to be your professor who's going to be meeting with you, and you have a lot of peers that are also trying to do a really difficult project with you. And that environment just really pushes you to learn a lot, especially because academia is a lot harder than just regular, software engineering, because there's a lot more research there's a lot more, planning and design that goes into your projects, because you have something you're trying to solve, but you have no guided way to solve that. You need to come up with that yourself, and the only way you can, figure out the solution is to try a lot of different things, keep making mistakes until you find one that works. And so for me, I did research in virtual reality with a professor who researched basically social interactions in VR. And I currently do research in natural language processing and computer vision with Professor Claire Carty, who, she's a really big person in the NLP world. She even got like a fellowship for ACM, stuff like that. So that's my recommendation research.
Got you. Yeah, and you've also done other. You were on a project team, right? And also obviously working with Universe.
Oh yeah. So I'd say, beyond research, um, the other two things I think. So really, it's just doing these team projects. I think that's what we should be going for beyond doing, solo projects. I think there's a limit to that, to how much you can learn, but working with other people is always, you learn a lot more from that. So entrepreneurship is, the next one after that, which is where I worked a lot with Nick, where we tried, I mean, I don't know how much the audience knows about university, but we did a lot of entrepreneurship with VR to try and get Nick to where he is now. Good job with all this. That was a really cool experience because we were doing this like freshman, sophomore year where we really didn't know anything about how to run a company, how to, address a problem, how to get customers, how to build this from the ground up. And so when you jump into something like this, you learn really fast. It's a lot of just researching online and Googling to figure out what you need to do. But entrepreneurship is a huge one just because you understand beyond trying to solve a problem, you're trying to solve a problem that matters, and that's a big deal. And now, finally, project teams. The reason I don't normally bring up project teams is because not every school has them. Um, I think this is something unique to a lot of schools like Cornell, which is basically it's just a bunch of groups that are formally established to compete in different kinds of competitions. I was actually on a chemical engineering project team doing electronics. That's a whole other story because that's
Yeah.
right in the beginning. I didn't know whether or not I wanted to do EC or CS. But I did a lot of like Arduino and microcontroller programming on that team, which was a super cool experience. And I know I'm going to take that with me forever. That's a really good skill to have. But definitely, if you have something of the sorts, like some examples of project teams at Cornell are CU Air. They build a literal plane to like navigate an obstacle course. CU AUV, autonomous underwater vehicle. They build submarines that have to like navigate an underwater course. A whole lot of teams like that. Those are also really good foundational experiences for you to learn how to work on a team and build like the basic knowledge you need to succeed.
Yeah, and if I could just add to that, so I also worked with the project team with Cornell Autonomous Bicycle, and project teams or side projects, it's really just a group of people getting together to work on something, and it's that community of having people that you could work together with, bounce ideas off is important. And even if you're not in college, whether that's a Reddit community, whether that's CSinVR, just find a community of people that are working on something similar, and then that will be a great place to like bounce ideas off and get information from. But I want to move forward the conversation a bit because I want to talk about something that is pretty. There's a lot of like ambiguity with recruiting, but I think it's a really important part of becoming a software engineer. You don't have a job, you're not really a software engineer. So I think I wanted to talk a bit about like the process there because I know I've been through it a bit, and then Artie has obviously been through it. Through getting his full-time offers. But let's start with how did you prepare for the software engineering interviews?
Yeah, so um, really the most important thing to do for this is practice. That's all anyone is going to tell you. So to start out with, I'm sure a lot of people know about Cracking the Coding Interview, the book. Um, and I think that's the best introduction to how to do these software engineering interviews because it goes through every single step and the process that you should take during like a 45-minute interview, how you start it, how you approach problems, how you solve problems, how you debug problems. Um, so just reading this book and doing a lot of practice questions is really what helped me get here. And then beyond that, what a lot of people might know about is a website called LeetCode. And what LeetCode has is a lot of practice problems, just like there's just thousands on there. And just grinding out these problems is a really, really good way of a kind of getting better at these interviews because a lot of the questions that are asked in software engineering interviews are all, mildly related. They use kind of the similar topics. All need similar techniques to solve. Um, and you practicing solving questions is really like the best thing you can do because in the end, that's what they're testing. It's not like when you sit down for a real interview or for a real job, you're just going to be solving these random algorithm questions. What they're testing for is your creativity, your ability to think fast on the spot, and they're really testing your intelligence. So that's really what you want to train. Not you don't want to memorize a bank of just like random questions, but rather, improve your own skill set and being able to solve a question starting from nothing.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. They're really trying to test how good of a problem solver you are. How do you think? They're not trying to see whether you memorize some specific algorithm. So, and I just want to add to that, and I think that's interesting. What's interesting about that is a lot of what they test, right, is not covered in advanced courses. So they're not going to be testing you on things like graphics or really machine learning until you get past to a host matching phase where you're talking to specific team members. During the initial first few interviews, they're testing really on basic data structures and algorithms, which a lot of which we learned in 2 courses in college, right, Artie? Like our first two
Right.
courses, we learned most of it.
Freshman and sophomore year, there was very much the basics right then.
So yeah, a lot of what they're testing is kind of the basics, but it's not like they're just testing, oh, do you know the basics? They're testing how do you use the basics of computer science to solve problems. So a lot of the way they structure their problems is they'll start off with something easy, so giving you an easy problem, and then start building that problem into a harder and harder problem as you go through it. And that's really how they like to test you, to kind of take you through steps of giving you something easy and then adding constraints to make it harder and harder and see how you adapt to those new challenges. Would you say that's accurate, Artie, or what was your experience there?
No, I agree. That's really the biggest kind of trend you'll encounter in these interviews. And when I'm doing practice, I make sure to basically take that same approach, take an easy problem and then start looking at you can find a series of problems that build on each other and kind of practicing going through those steps and seeing how, as you make the problem more and more challenging, how do you keep modifying your solution to account for different cases?
Exactly. Yeah, and you mentioned LeetCode is a fantastic slide. Let me see if I can get it. I'm going to take a question right after this, but I want to see if I can get the live stream to show. Let's see. Awesome. Yeah, live stream my computer. Right? You guys see that? Give me some emojis if you do. So cracking the code interview is you can get it on Amazon. I'm not a promoter of I'm not an advertiser of cracking the code interview, but this is kind of like the Bible for programming interviews in general.
It really is. This is the first thing anyone will tell you to read. If you need an introduction, this is what you're gonna do.
And so you can find it on Amazon. You can also find a free digital copy that's kind of pirated. It has a lot of typos, but if you look this up, you'll be able to find it. And it's a great place to start off with. And we'll talk about LeetCode and some other things in a bit, but just wanted to give a shout out to them if anyone is interested in getting started. So let's take some questions, guys. I'm going to call on Grim Reaper.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. So this is kind of out of the, well, I guess it's not out of the ballpark, but I'm currently working on getting my GED. I happened to drop out of high school about 4 or 5 years ago. What would it take for me to get into this field more? I like learning all this stuff, but I want to get more into the field and properly assert myself to where I need to be to continue on and actually get paid for work.
Gotcha. So, yeah, I mean, I'm really impressed that you're trying to, build yourself back into this field. Yeah, so I mean, the first thing you need to do is kind of narrow down your interest. Assuming kind of the basics, it's really where do you want to go into this field, because there's a lot of different things you can do, and not all of them are necessarily going to be just software engineering. But I mean, if that's what you want to do, like I said before, it really starts with doing projects, because that's the best way to learn, in my opinion. Because you're not going to get these interviews if you don't have anything to show for it on your resume in the first place, right? These interviews are assuming that, these companies think you already have a legitimate experience in doing software engineering. So the first thing that you'll do, and you can honestly, you can look online for a lot more examples, but almost everyone will tell you the same thing, is do personal projects. In really anything, you want to make a game, you want to make an app, you want to make a website, just show that you're competent at doing the kinds of things that you might be doing in a real work environment. And so once you kind of get that, you can start looking towards nailing these interviews.
Yeah, and if I could just add to that. So as already mentioned, a key point is that in order to get to these interviews in the first place, you have to do personal projects. Those personal projects is kind of what differentiates you from a lot of other candidates. So those are really important. But another thing that is important is, if you're just starting off, having some sort of validation, whether that's like a certificate from Udemy, from Udacity, whether that's going to boot camps. A lot of those structures are just to give these companies validation that, someone saw that you did this and that they could sign off on it. Just to speak to our experience at college, we miss a lot of lectures. College is college is a lot about obviously learning, and the courses are great, but a lot of it is also just the people and the environment and the networking. And I think having a source of that, whether you go to some community college or doing a boot camp, a lot of boot camps are popular. They will help you, one, understand what you need to learn, but also connect you with jobs. So boot camps, I think, really good option, not only for learning, but the other half of the battle is getting job connections and getting opportunities. So in addition to personal projects, finding those boot camps or small colleges that can help you with that.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I just want to stress that it really is about I think motivating yourself to just do something like this is a lot of work, and it's a challenge, and if you can do it, good for you. But it's so much easier if you have a bunch of people around you doing the same thing, and you can work with them to get yourself up to where you want to be.
Exactly. Awesome. Okay, so I think let's take another question because that was a great question. So we'll take one more and then we'll keep going. Let's go to Barkman.
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello? Yeah, we
Yep.
can hear you.
Okay, so the question I want to ask is about how to get more engaged in online courses. Most of the time when I start an online course, I just lose the motivation to continue after 1 hour of watching or something. It's too hard to continue. It's not like actual courses, In actual
Yeah.
courses, I don't know if it's only me with this thing, but this happened to me every time. I just open the course and I can't continue. I'm like college. In college, I pay attention and I'm attentive and everything is. Do you have any tips on how to fix this?
Sure. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is make sure it's the right course for you. If it's just a course that's just just ranting about stuff, and then if it's just, kind of information and there's no way to retain it, I don't think that's going to be a very, very engaging experience. Versus I know that there's a lot of courses out there that are kind of give you the basics to do a project, and then they're just go do this, build this entire system with the knowledge that you know. And in my opinion, right, that's a lot more engaging because now you're problem solving. You're actually doing what computer scientists do. And I think that's the part of computer science that's engaging to me. That's when Nick was we skip lectures sometimes. That's not the most engaging thing, but doing the projects and the homeworks, that's where we're put up to the test. That's where we're put to the mental challenge to really engage in the topic. And so more doing is really all I can recommend, and finding the courses that do that for you is going to be really beneficial. So at the very least, if you're already in a course and it's you're kind of getting bored of it, see what the topics that course is teaching you and try and go do something with it. Don't just listen to it and take it for granted.
Yeah, and if I could just add to that, yeah. So I think finding something that is valuable to you, why do you want to take this course in the first place, and then finding some sort of project is really important. So having setting milestones for yourself, saying I'm going to take this course to do that is really critical to doing these online courses. Also, what you just said is exactly how I feel with online courses, and that's why we're doing these things in virtual reality to try and build a community for people that are trying to learn online. So if you don't do it through us with the courses we offer, then if you're doing it through online, I think finding a community is still really important. So whether that's doing discussion forums, Reddit groups, Stack Overflow, just finding a group of people you could ask questions to and feel at home with, I think is incredibly important. As I said, college is a lot of just about getting smart people together and motivating each other. And I think you could still do that online, but I think virtual reality is the next wave, and that's what we're trying to do.
Exactly.
All right, great question. So let's do another question. So let me get my slides back out. Get off of the live stream. All right, so let's do a recruiting question. Let's see which one. We have 2 recruiting questions. Let's do this one. Okay, so everyone close out their personal browsers. So close out your personal browsers and then click here for quiz 2 again. And you guys are going to vote on a question you want to see. Make sure you close out your personal browsers and then click on here for quiz 2 and click on the number of the question you want to see. And I just want to say, related to the last question, if you guys want to take a course in virtual reality where we're trying to build a community around that course so you guys can get that in-person engagement, join us on our Discord at CSinVR.com. There's a course links channel that shows you the courses we're offering. It's Intro to Programming and Intro to Unity right now, but we're hoping to expand that in the future. Awesome. Thanks, guys. All right, let me go ahead and reveal. All right, so 2 is the question people want to ask, which is the timeline. Yeah, so...
Oh, this is a great question, yeah.
You want to go ahead and just take it?
Yeah, so my timeline into getting into Microsoft. So it was kind of, I took a very unique route. I didn't just kind of hop in. So I actually started applying to Microsoft my junior year of college, junior fall, and I got a referral from a friend who interned previously that summer. So with that, Microsoft was doing on-campus interviews at Cornell. So I did my first round on campus, and it was a super chill interview. Wasn't even that technical. The guy was just talking to me about my resume and stuff. And I thought it went okay. And then after that, I just didn't hear back for a really long time until I got an email at the end of like the fall recruiting season that was like, "Hey, like we really liked you, but there weren't enough spots to fly you out for an on-site. We basically like exhausted our budget for Cornell. So sorry, like we're gonna have to push you to next year." So, I mean, basically, yeah, what that means is I didn't do well enough for them to fly me out right then, but I didn't do bad enough that they didn't like me. So, okay. So going into senior year, so yeah, this past fall's recruiting season, they reached out to me like, "Hey, we really still did like you from last year. Do you want to get fast-tracked into an on-site right away?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, for sure." So, I do an interview super early in the recruiting season, like I think October or November. I think it was like an October interview. And so they fly me out to Seattle. I go and I do 4 back-to-back interviews on site, and I can just give you guys an idea of the questions I had. A lot of this was actually, concepts that were straight from LeetCode. There were some questions like, I'm sure a lot of people know what twosome is. That's kind of a basic question on LeetCode, but they kind of took that and made it, they just kept adding layers of complexity to it, because twosome, as the question, is very easy, but they made it more challenging and made me kind of think about it in different ways. I had some lower level questions kind of regarding how does my experience fit in with like OS and how Windows operates. So some more like contextual questions. And other than that, it was just like a lot of data structures, LinkedIn or linked list questions, et cetera, et cetera. So that, that's all stuff you can find on LeetCode. But, it was more, at that point, it was just, I was just testing my endurance, like 4 back-to-back 45-minute interviews, a lot of talking. I can, recommend bring a bottle of water because you're going to be chugging it through that whole super day. But yeah, that's what my actual interview day was like. A lot of it was also just kind of, I make sure to network because I talked to a lot of other people interviewing there to kind of, part of it was to like keep myself calm, but I also wanted to kind of understand what other people were going through because, you don't want to end up leaving your super day and then just having no point of contact with anyone. So, I got a few people's numbers that were also interviewing there with me, and, we're just kind of reassuring ourselves that we did all right. So after the interview was over, Oh, and also, if you get an interview for an on-site like Microsoft, like it's like, enjoy yourself because they give you a budget to have fun. So, had a nice dinner, like why not? Seattle's a really cool place. Might as well go around and explore. I was there with other friends from school, so I think that was just kind of lucky of me. But I had a good time. So I go home, and the next day, the friend I interviewed with, he told me he got rejected, and I was terrified. I was like, oh man, like I guess I lost it. I gotta keep recruiting. And so I actually don't hear back for almost 2 weeks, I think. And I
Oh my
was just,
God.
every day, I was just like really hoping I got it, but I had no idea. So, during those 2 weeks, I was still, applying to other companies and doing a lot of prep. And, finally 2 weeks later, I got the email that was like, hey, you got it. Congrats. I was
Oh my
like, oh,
God.
thank God I did it. And so, yeah, that was how I got my offer. And then, yep, thanks for the claps.
Just some emojis.
Yeah. And then, and then basically from there, how the timeline basically went was, um, I actually kept recruiting, and I recommend everyone else to do this up until your deadline because you really want to compete, or you want to try and get the best offer you can. It's really in your own best interest. There's no reason not to. These companies have plenty of money to give out, and so I actually got other offers from. I think the most significant one was I got an offer from Amazon Robotics. And so I remember towards my deadline, I was basically debating between the two, Amazon Robotics in Boston versus Microsoft in Seattle. And you'll hear this from a lot of people. And this is also like very lucky. It's kind of like these companies are super hard to land. Like these two offers were like my only two offers that I was considering. But a lot of my friends only got one offers. Some are still recruiting. Some got five, and that's just because everyone has had different experiences, different connections, etc. But so I used these two offers to kind of negotiate the two up a little bit, and ended up going with Microsoft just because I valued their work culture and their mission a lot more than I did Amazon, I guess. But that's up for your own opinion. You do your own research before you choose. I did my research to ask people who worked at both companies, got a lot of people's opinions, and made my final decision based off my opinion of the company, what kinds of work I would be doing, my work-life balance, and my salary.
Wow, that's an amazing answer. Before you even break, that was a whole lot of information that could be broken down so much. But let's take a question from the audience because I know you guys might want to ask something. So let's go to my name is. My name is, or Rick, I think is your other name.
Yeah, that's cool. You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, cool. Yeah, I got a hopefully a 2-for-1 question combo. But yeah, I'm
Sounds good.
self-taught. Yeah, I'm not in college. I'm self-taught, and I've been doing online study groups online. And one thing that is missing though out of a lot of the teachings, and I wish I know it's focused a lot in college. Algorithms and data structures are not taught a lot, and that's missing out of I can code, but when I tried to I just failed a coding test for a nonprofit coding boot camp, and it really showed that I still got a lot to learn, even though I can code somewhat. And I tried to cram for the algorithm, but it's a lot of information. I got pretty deep into it, and but yeah, what's your advice for like self-taught dudes, like really trying to learn algorithms and data structures properly?
Already, can I take that one?
Will y'all
Yeah,
do
go
a
for
course on that? I actually like y'all to do a course on that, to be honest. But
Yeah, I mean, so obviously, like, I love to do more courses. The thing is, I'm not sure if there's enough people at that level. Like, a lot more people are at that introductory level. That's why we're doing these kind of intro courses. But eventually, hopefully, we'll be able to move to those, like, kind of interview preparation. And just the reason I wanted to take this one was because right now, so I've been on a leave of absence from college for about a year now, working on the startup. So I recently, going through recruiting again, had to teach myself kind of the algorithms and the data structures again. So I'm kind of in that same boat. And yeah, so I would recommend, and someone asked me this question, but I want to show you the resource that basically everyone uses, which is LeetCode. So that's LEET code here, and they basically have a ton of problems. There's also HackerRank, which is another good one. Now, LeetCode I recommend for doing a lot of testing. What I like about HackerRank is they actually organize their problems into like subsets. So one subset will be like, all right, we're going to test how to do linked lists. Now we're going to test how to do arrays, and they provide some sort of explanation. So when you're starting off, I recommend using HackerRank to kind of go through it with cracking the coding interview. But to get to your question without going through all these resources, yeah, so it's one thing to learn how to code, right? Like you could go through these courses, learn Java, learn Ruby on Rails, but it's another thing to learn data structures and algorithm. So I think to do that, I would watch like a lot of YouTube videos explaining it. What I did was I would go through these problems, try to do them myself, and then go to a YouTube video explaining how they did it. Basically, it gives you an understanding of how they apply these algorithms, how they thought through this problem, and that really helps you get a better understanding. So LeetCode is the best resource for that. There's a ton of YouTube videos going over a lot of answers to these questions. But to learn, LeetCode I would say is more for testing. To learn in the coding interview first, and then use HackerRank, and then for testing I use LeetCode. Artie, what do you think about that?
I mean, great answer. The really awesome thing about LeetCode is that there's such a big community behind it. So, I mean, if you look at the screen right now, one of the tabs, so this is a question where you can try and answer your question on the right. One of the tabs up there is a discussion tab. You go in there, and there's like thousands of people with their own answers and explanations. And you can refer to these for kind of more in-depth solutions, or like, you know, maybe you're looking for this problem. Someone will probably have an answer for that. And there's so many tutorials on YouTube of people just going through all of these questions and answering them on whiteboards, drawing out the data structures for it. And I think that might be kind of what you're looking for there.
Yeah, exactly. I say the YouTube videos, like that's just go through YouTube videos first, understand the actual concept behind these algorithms. Another thing I want to mention, and Artie, let me know if you think this too. You don't want to just like memorize how these algorithms are constructed. You want to understand how they work. Like when you're looking through searching algorithms, sorting algorithms, you want to first understand how they work abstractly, and then once you understand that, then go to how it's implemented in code. You don't want to just memorize the code itself.
Yeah, no, that's a really big point. And again, you can also find YouTube tutorials for that, but you want to make sure you really are solid on the foundations before you start jumping into these actual problems. You want to understand, like, for example, why do you do this kind of sort in this, like, how does this sort work? Then figure out why you want a certain problem. That's just kind of like a very obscure example, but for any topic in this field, like in this whole data structures thing, you really want to do that.
Yeah, awesome. So it is 11 right now, so we're gonna have to leave in about 10 minutes, I'd say. But before we do, we'll take one more question. But I want you guys to fill out this survey if you haven't already. This gives us a better event about what you guys are looking for in future events and what you thought about today. So click here for link 1. Go ahead and finish that Google Form survey if you haven't already. And then we'll take one more question and we'll call in. Hopefully we'll have another interview series another day. But yeah, click on here for quiz 1. Do the Google Form. And we'll take one more question after that. So let me get the... Yeah, great answers, Artie.
Thanks. This is really cool. I've never done a interview in VR. This is a really awesome experience. Thanks again, Nick, by the way.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to show you... Oh, whoa. Did the screen go black for you over here?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay, it might just be me. But yeah, no, I kind of also wanted to show you what it's like doing VR stuff. So Artie worked, he laid the foregrounds for what we're doing today, so I wanted to show him what we're up to. So give some emojis for Artie too, and make sure you guys are filling out that form. So emojis for Artie for coming first.
Thanks, guys.
Let's get some
This
emojis.
startup has really come a long way. This is really cool.
Emojis, guys. Thank you, Artie. To fill out the survey, we'll do one more question. And if you want to, again, enhance, make the survey bigger, press the grip button, point at the browser, and then move your analog stick forward. That'll enlarge it so it's easier to read and click. And then you use your analog stick. I think it's press it up, and it'll scroll down for the questions. make sure everyone gets those questions in, those responses in. Just wait a little bit for everyone to get them in. Awesome. And while we wait for those, so we'll see if these interview series are, people like them. I might try and get a incoming data science engineer at Facebook. So I'll get you the survey results. That might be another interesting topic for you guys. Because I heard some interest there. What else do I want to say? Oh, and if you guys are interested, again, if you're interested in getting the session recording from today, learning more about the courses we're teaching, Intro to Programming, Intro to Unity, join our Discord. That's www.CSinVR.com. Type that into your desktop. Great place to get access to those course links, find session recordings, be a part of the community. A lot of the problems we talked about, online learning, not having that community, not having the in-person feel, is what we're trying to solve by teaching these courses in virtual reality. So we hope you join our community by joining that Discord. And find out more about those courses there. All right, we'll take one more question, and then we'll go ahead and get Artie. And let's see, I'm going to call on. Let's go to Glass Dragon. I don't think we've heard from him today or her.
Hey, I'm a freshman in college. I mean, not college, high school. My bad. But how do you get yourself out there to those big companies? Like, do you have to have those connections or like internship? But like, how?
Okay, so I mean, yeah, that's a really big question. I mean, there's a lot of ways to really get yourself out there. I'd say, so I mean, the first step I'd say is experience, right? Try and get into, well, okay, let me rephrase that. A big part of recruiting is networking, and I'm sure Nick has talked about that. And that's, the part of that is building up that community, but part of that is also just building up experience. So like, you can always start by just, applying to jobs, right? And just hope you get a response. But if there are networking events in your area, you can always go to those and talk to recruiters, get their emails, then DM them on LinkedIn or email them directly. Cornell's career fairs, that's where I've waited in line and just kind of, done my fair share to just literally just run around, try and talk to as many recruiters as possible, get into, make enough of a lasting impression on them that they actually remember who you are and then reach out to you. But a lot of recruiting is a personal process. So if you can really cater to what a company is looking for, that's really helps you stand out in their eyes. So for example, if a company is specifically looking for this certain type of engineer in a certain subject, and then you go and you tell them about an internship where you did that exact project, you'll see like a spark in their eyes, and they'll start asking you and probing more about that project. And that's how you kind of get in cahoots with that recruiter. So that's really, it's all about networking and kind of understanding your audience and appealing to people's tastes. But besides that, it's really, it's just building your job experience, your work experience, your project experience, all enough to impress that recruiter. And just kind of, I think one thing I didn't mention earlier that I wanted to talk about briefly is that my first internship, I didn't think it was very impressive. I started out working for AT&T, and my project experience wasn't that great, but I used that to kind of hop to another company. I jumped to Capital One. I had a much better experience there, and I was able to network a lot more, had a better community there. And so you kind of build yourself stepping stones to get yourself to an end goal.
Yeah, and just to add, it's all about stepping stones. So you're not going to just land a good job at Google day one. You got to grind up the position. As Artie said, Artie has a great example. As a freshman, you're not going to be really competing for those positions. So you want to maybe go to AT&T is a really good internship. Then go to Capital One, and then finally get that big offer from Microsoft. So it's going to come in steps. It doesn't have to be even from a big company. It could be, you're working on a small project. It could be your own personal project. But you want to show that progression. You don't want to just expect that you're going to get that big position without showing that previous experience. And we're running out of time today, but I want to talk about the other half of getting a job, not just the academic half, but the networking half, getting referrals, getting inside connections, how to reach out to recruiters. So that will be hopefully another session that I'll I'll do another time. But we're out of time today, guys. And I really, if you guys are interested in learning more, join the Discord, CSinVR.com. Sign up for the courses. The Intro to Unity one is a really good one for building 3D and 2D games into VR apps. So I really recommend signing up for that one. Yeah, and thank you guys so much for coming. Subscribe to our channel on Altspace to get events notifications about when we're hosting our next one. And yeah, emojis for Artie. Emojis for Artie for coming. Thank you so much,
Thank you so
Artie.
much, guys.
That was
Thanks, Nick, for
fantastic.
all this.
Yeah, all right, I gotta get Artie out of the VR.
All right, sounds good. Had a great time talking to you. Good luck in your endeavors. I believe in all of you. If you want to do CS, you can make it big. Good luck.
Awesome. And to follow up on, ask questions on Discord, and I'll be free to answer them as well.